So, this is every movie I watched in the month of May, which I decided when I got home from college for summer I'd watch a movie a day, which probably isn't the greatest idea, but I've largely kept up with it. I didn't start it in early May though, because in early May I started with May 1st. I watched Arrival for the first time, but it was in a car on the way to a wedding, so I didn't really. Like, I acknowledged it was a good movie, and if I had been in a linguistics class and shown this, I probably would have cared a little bit more about linguistics. But I didn't. So I was like, this is a pretty cool time, but I can't see half of it because it's like cloudy outside. I don't really know what's going on. But we'll get back to Arrival. I do watch it again. The next thing I watched was Tenet because I wanted to see if it was just actually mixed poorly or if it was just I was in a movie theater and couldn't hear. And it's the former. Like, those people are like whispering half the time. Like, I couldn't. I looked away for like a second because I heard something in my room where I was watching it, and I missed like a whole conversation. And I was like, oh, it's just the movie. It's not a me problem. So on that same day, but later, I watched The Terminal, which was like, I don't know if an airport would be like that nice. Like, everyone in that movie, aside from the villain, is like a good solid human. Like, they all like really care about Tom Hanks, and it's like, this is kind of like strange. Like, it doesn't feel real sometimes. Or it's like, there's no way everyone is that nice to him. Like, they start kind of like iffy on him, but then it's like by the end they're like everybody's his best friend, and it's like, I can suspend my disbelief, but I'm not entirely sure I believe that. Next up was I started flying home, so I downloaded Free Solo and watched it for like the third or fourth time now, because it's a good sweet spot for a flight where you can start and finish it in like one go. And I just think it's like a really fascinating thing to watch. Like, he's such like a interesting human to think about, and then like what he's doing is just like, there's one little slip and you're dead. And I'd been bouldering like a week before, and it was like, oh, he's just doing what I'm doing but exponentially harder. Like, if I fall here, there's a map below me. If he falls, he's just dead because he's like 3,000 feet above the ground. But it's also funny because I watched it in an airplane, so I was also very high up in the air. But that's neither here nor there. It was just a funny thing I thought of while I was watching it. Next up, I watched Skyfall for the first time because it was finally on a streaming service I had. It's a pretty good time. I'd seen the last like 10 minutes of it because it was on TV once. Because every time I get it on TV, it's never on again enough to like be relevant later, so I just miss it. But like, it's probably of the I still think Casino Royale for me is my favorite of them all that I've seen so far. I'm still missing Spectre and then No Time to Die whenever it decides to come out. But this is like a solid. Skyfall's like a solid second. Mads Mikkelsen bleeding blood out of his eye is just too good. It's just too good. So the next day I watched The Taxi Driver, which is like, I thought it was going to be more like happy than it was, because you look at the poster and it's like, this is like a happy movie, and this is just so depressing. Like, everywhere they're going there, it's like, it's just so bad. Like, he has no desire to be in there, and then he gets into it with the reporter, and it's just like, this is insane that they're allowing this to happen. Like, these are just been like gunned down basically for just like trying to save someone, and like half the time it's like, we gotta go put our lives in danger just to make sure people know this is happening, because we're at a point in the world where like that's what needs to happen. It's like, we've got like, everything tries to cover things up, and it's like, you never know what's going on, and then there's always like the one person who's in there in the middle that like shows us that like, this is horrible that this is happening to those people. And then I watched Mamma Mia again because I was really depressed and I wanted to be happy. And that's a good. Mamma Mia is like a perfect like you just shut your brain off and you just let the music take you and just let it go down your body, absorb it in, and have a good time. The next day I watched the new Mortal Kombat, and it was dumb and bad, but by the end I kind of enjoyed it. The first bit, it took a little bit to get like, I kind of care about this, but it's also like too stupid to care. And then by the end, I'm just like, this is dumb and this is stupid, but I'm just gonna go for the ride and have fun with it. And that made it a lot more enjoyable. It's not a good movie, but it's fun once you just switch that brain off real quick. And the new Mortal Kombat theme for it at the end of the credits, kind of good. Then I finished the map of Tiny Perfect Things, because I started it like a month ago. Got like halfway through and I was like, this is kind of boring. So then I finished it, and it was pretty good. It was just kind of, it's a time travel film that's pretty good. It's nothing really like noteworthy about it. It doesn't do anything bad, like super bad. It's nothing super good. It's just like, it exists and it's pretty good. Then I watched Arrival again, this time in a well-lit room, and it was like, this is just, like, Denis Villeneuve is, like, probably up there, like, one of my, like, favorite filmmakers now, because he just hasn't missed with me yet. I don't know if Dune might be his first miss, but, like, man, that was good stuff. It's just, like, I love the time thing where it's like you go back and you're going forward, and like the first time you're kind of like, I don't really, like, I get what's going on here, but I don't really get it. But like once you kind of understand what's happening, it's like, oh, this makes a lot more sense, and I can like follow this in like a decent way. And that's really what I just really like sci-fi stuff. This Arrival is extremely up my alley, and naturally I liked it. The next I watched Spotlight, because I had a cool poster. And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember this exists and is very bad. It's a good movie about a very bad topic, because it's disgusting. It's like no way about it. It's just so gross that happened and how big it was. Because at the end, there's like, well, spoilers, there's like a list of like every town and place that it's happened in, and it's just like keeps going. It's like, this is in like every state in this country, which is just insane to think about, that it's that widespread. And it's like, and it's still going on, which is like, how do you like, you get exposed and you keep finding it's all going, and then it's still going on. It's like what's going on here that this hasn't been addressed in a meaningful enough way that it's stopped? And it's just like, I don't, like, is it ever going to stop? Are people ever going to be not disgusting human beings? I don't have the answer to that. I hope people can be good about this in one day and just not do that. Just not rape kids. It's not that hard. And then I watched Eternity's Gate, and I enjoyed it, but I was just very kind of not in the mood for the filmmaking. Like, I acknowledge there's definitely a subset of people that like that, but it was very like Terrence Malick kind of, but almost more just like free flowing, which has an appeal, and it's kind of like you're watching like a poem in a way, where it's very just like sensual. But at times it's just like, I was just like, okay, buddy, like, this isn't hitting me quite right, and I'm not really feeling it. Then I watched The Human Voice, because I saw it was on HBO Max, and it was very good, but I was also, it's one of the things that where it's like all set on like a stage, but I don't think they ever acknowledged that it like is a stage. Like, she's just like living in a stage in her boyfriend's like apartment, which is this stage, but I don't think that's like it's never acknowledged that they live in a set. But then she's just getting back at him, and I'm always here for women getting back at trash men, We take those. Take the W, guys. Take the W. And then I watched Emma because it's the opposite. And I think it's just it started that, and I didn't think any of the guys were really that attractive. You know, it's a like a rom. Like it's that subset of period film where it's very clear romance. These guys are meant to be like everyone's gonna end up with someone at the end. And I was like, these guys are just not there for me, not doing it. And then you kind of warm up to them because you're like, oh, these are like decent people. Like it's not that bad. But I think at the end I just had fun with it. I was like, I don't care about these, like, these people are going to end up together. Might as well just enjoy the ride. Not much else I can do to change that. And the next day I watched Mulholland Drive because everyone said it was really, really good. And that was like the biggest case. If I went from the start to the finish, I have no idea what's going on here. Because like the first like half or so, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. And like the whole last third, I'm like, I was just a blinking guy being like, I don't know what's going on here. I just was like, everything was straight over me and I just had no idea. And then I went on YouTube and looked up explained videos and went, wow, this makes a lot of sense. Like I feel like if I watched it again, I'd probably like it more. But it was also just like I don't know if I want to sit through that again, even knowing what it is. Like I just kind of need to like, if I'm ever in the mood for it, I'll watch it again. But it's just a lot to like process, like keep going through it, even knowing like what it is. Like when you know what it is, it's pretty, it can make sense. But it's still just kind of a lot. There's a lot there. I respect that it exists. It's just a lot. And then I watched An American Pickle, and it was just kind of okay. It was very, like, modern social media influencer kind of thing, but it was, like, kind of wholesome at the end. But it was also, like, this guy's just kind of screwing he's, like, the son is just screwing his dad's life over. Like, the things he's doing are definitely illegal and, like, not up to code. But it's also like his son who's sabotaging like every time, and it's like I get you're jealous, but like at some point you got to work through it. Like neither of those people are very good humans, I would say, because they kind of just screw each other over all the time. And it's like, oh, you just left your kid get deported, thanks. Like it ends up being good for him, but like you still got your kid deported, which is kind of weird. Then I watched Infinity War for like 14th or 15th time because it's just a good whatever movie. It's very good, but it's like it's a good time. It's 2.5 hours, and it feels pretty perfectly paced. Where I'm just like, okay, I've seen it like 14, 15 times. Like I can skip this section because I don't care about this stuff. There's some crazy stuff going on outside. It's one of those, like, it's a good TV movie. And I think a lot of, like, the Avengers movies are good, like, TV movies, where it's, like, you can put it on and kind of just, like, let it play, and you don't need to tune in all the time. There's nothing crazy happening that doesn't, like, drastically change the status quo. Like, things happen, but then the music usually kick up to the point where you're like, oh, I should pay attention here, instead of, like, oh, big moment. And then the last third, you just, once you hear the Avengers theme, you can turn your brain on again and start listening and enjoying the ride. It's like, you get as much as you want out of them. Like if you just want to turn them on your TV and let them play for 2.5 hours, 3 hours with ads, that's fine. But like if you want to like look at them, like it's a pretty well made film. And the next day I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is also a pretty good TV movie, albeit a little bit darker, because everyone gets their faces melted off, and you're like, oh, that's a little gross. That's not quite what I was expecting, but I guess that happened. But like largely, it's just like it's a fun time. Like you get what you want. It's a good, well made film, but it also is like I can put this on in the background and like not feel like I missed too many things. Because the last third is just Indy gets trapped somewhere, gets out, goes to somewhere else, gets trapped, like that same cycle for like, which is probably just the whole movie. Maybe I just noticed it the most near the end, because he's just trying to get to the Ark, and he gets the Ark, gets trapped in the place where the Ark is, gets out, gets to where they've got the Nazis got the Ark, gets captured, has to get out, everyone gets their faces burned off, and then the movie ends basically. Then next I watched Walk Hard, Dewey Cox story, and this thing is, it's probably one of the best like music biopics in just like a commentary on being one, but it's also like very erotic. Like every 5 seconds is like there's just something sexual in it, and you're like, okay guys, like I get like every celebrities and sex, drugs, and alcohol, but it's just it's so in your face you kind of laugh about it, but you're like, okay, like this is ever dialed down just a little bit, which I think I kind of got soured on it after a while. I was like, okay, like I've kind of had enough of this. And then I watched, it wasn't a movie, but I watched it of course today, so I watched The Last Dance because I can log on Letterboxd, and that means I'm going to add it to this. And I know nothing about basketball except like very, very basic fundamentals from like playing it in gym class or just like cultural exposure. Like I know who Michael Jordan is because it's kind of hard to not to, even though I kind of was not alive when like the events of the show happened. Like I've seen him in Space Jam, and he like has shoes. Like he's still like a very like popular, like cultural zeitgeist kind of guy. Like you know who he is, even if you don't like basketball or really know anything about it. But I think this was a really interesting like show, and it also is like why I don't get invested in like sports, because I feel like I would just drain so much of my time watching like a basketball game or a football game or whatever, because I just get so like easily invested in these things, even knowing like, yeah, they're gonna get the 6 from the beginning. It's like they don't tell you, but it's like, yeah, that they're gonna get the last win, like duh. But it's just like seeing that, like I was very invested in like, okay, like I want these guys to win, and then also just like how interesting all these people are. It's just like people, like they're very like eccentric individuals, but there's also like a lot of things you can look at on like the culture of that time and just like how it affected like them as players and them as people. And like there's a lot to, if you look, there's a lot there, but you also can kind of ride yourself along on the like, are they gonna get the 6th? And they make the like the prior 5 like pretty engaging, so you're like, whew, I want to see these guys win again. Like, you know, they win, like, you know, from the beginning they win. It's just, you're along for the ride, and the ride's pretty good. Then I watched Moonlight, and it was very, very, very good. Probably, I think, of the ones I've watched in May, probably the best one, because it's just, it's very like, it hits home. It's just like wonderfully shot, and there's just a lot like there that like, if I think if it hits you right, it's gonna like ruin you in like a good way. And I think for me, it kind of ruined me in a good way, because it was leaving whatever streaming service it was pretty like soon after. So like, oh, I gotta watch this now before it goes, and I was like, oh, this is just, there's so much to like about it, and just so much to say about like sexuality, especially like male like sexuality, and just like being a black male homosexual. And I think just like being homosexual in general, there's a lot there to like really think on and like digest and kind of like see yourself in, even if it's not like a direct one-to-one thing. Then I watched Those Wish Me Dead, and it was just whatever. The fire was more threatening than the villains, the two shooter guys, Nicholas Hoult and the other guy, because I never feel like they wanted to kill him. They were like, well, I'll do it. It was like, I'll do it, like, don't test me. But then they like don't really like they shoot up the place. They're staying, but it doesn't really feel like they're ever shooting with the intent to kill. it just says like, oh, we need to catch the kid, but then like no one really like they get like beat up and like wounded a lot, but it never feels like the villains don't feel threatening. And then the fire comes, and you're like, oh, that fire could actually kill all of them. And then they just dive in the water. And you're like, yeah, water beats fire, the end. And it was just like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. It was a use of my time. And that's all it really needed to be. Then I watched Frag Time, which is like time travel and lesbian, basically. And it was very like, it was a good time because it was, I don't know, time travel ones are very hit or miss. I think this is a very good like, she's kind of discovering like who she is, the people, and these like two, it's like Liz and the Bluebird, but like with time travel in a way, and less good than Liz and the Bluebird, because it's kind of like these people who don't like know they need each other, and they kind of like have a dynamic, but they haven't really figured out how to make that dynamic work without like hitting and rubbing up against each other, when in reality like they're kind of interlocked and helping each other like be better people. And then I watched Pieces of a Woman because its poster looked cool and I wanted to see what it was, and then I was very sad. Well, not sad. It was just like, I was just kind of exhausted by the end of it, because there's a lot of like building. It's like it's rich people. I don't care. Rich people are just bad. Like, I don't care about rich people. They're just all awful people. And like 90% of the film is like her family just being like, you need to work through, like, you need to stop grieving and just like get over it. And I'm like, that's not how this works, buddy. Like, she'll get there and she gets there, and then she gets there. You're like, wow, what do you know? She's gonna get there. And rich people were just the rich old woman is just like, the mom is just like, what are you doing? Like, she basically gives Shia LaBeouf a blank check and it's like, go away forever, which is like, why would you do that? Like, what? Like, that just doesn't, like, I can't comprehend how you do that to someone. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you just pay, like, and he accepts it and he goes away, and it's like, he's just like, bye bye, I don't need you anymore. It's like, what? Like, what are you doing? That's not how that works. You can't just tell him to piss off because you don't want him here. Like, that's not a decision you get to make. And I just don't understand how he went along with it and how she thought that was an okay thing to do. But she's also a rich old lady, so I guess it makes sense at the end of the day. And then I watched the 2014 Godzilla because it was on TV, and it's still probably the best American Godzilla movie, because it's like Godzilla's there, and I think the monsters all look really cool, but it still is like it's like a good people story to some extent. Like, I care about the humans here, whereas we get to like the other ones, and it's like, I don't care about any of you, and your conflicts are just not interesting. The next watch, If Anything Happens, I Love You, and it was very sad, and it was like 12 minutes, and I had to go right after, so I didn't really think to process it, but it was just like it was a good 12 minutes. It just goes bang, and it hits you with the crying, and you're just like, well, I'm tired and sad, and now I need to go about the rest of my day thinking about that. The one interesting thing I remember that like vividly struck out, even when I wasn't like paying, well, I was paying attention, but like didn't have time to think on it, was like how bright the American flag is in that, because it is like a largely just an American problem of like school shootings, but like the American flag in that is like so bright and like vivid colored, and you're like, you just see it and it like draws your eyes to it as this like horrible thing is happening. And I'm like, that's just good storytelling right there. Then next I watched the Demon Slayer movie because I read up to it in the manga because I'm lazy and didn't want to watch the anime series. I'd already seen the end because I'd been spoiled on it, and then I saw it in the context of the whole movie, and it's like, wow, Rengoku is pretty cool. And I don't know what the other Hashira like, but right now, he's got a solid lock on first place. Because, like, he went out like a buster in the best way possible. And I have nothing but respect for him. Then I watched Army of the Dead, and it was kind of fine. I didn't know the one lady was edited in every shot, but I also kind of wasn't paying like a ton of attention because it was just like a zombie movie. It's like I wasn't like I was like, oh, these people are awful people because they're just like exploiting each other, and they make it, and they're like, oh, most of these people are gonna die by the end. You kind of get the sense by like the midpoint-ish as people start getting like picked off. You're like, okay, Batista and his daughter are gonna make it, and that's about it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, we're good. You can just kind of enjoy the shooty fest that it is, and not really need to like stress over it. And then I watched Saint Maud, which stressed me out because she puts nails on her shoes, and that makes me immensely uncomfortable every time. But it was also like, it wasn't what I was expecting, because I was expecting more of like her being possessed more, or like the more like pure like spiritual horror kind of stuff, where it's like she's being possessed and like being picked up and like thrown across the room and all that stuff. And then it was like more just like she thinks she's helping this person, like she thinks she's like the saint of this person, and then it's like, you're not, you're a crazy person. Like, it's like you think you want what's best for them, and it's like, no, I don't think you do. Then next I watched Heathers, which I had originally seen like high school, but I never finished it. I still don't think I finished it. I think I was pretty close. And it's just wild. It's kind of like, whoa. But the entire time thinking like, oh, that's just a robot, but just younger. And since I'd seen most of it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember these, like, they just kill everyone. And then he just doesn't, and then he dies too. Like, it's a good like commentary, like not being those like elite people where it's like you make the clique that just like isolates and alienates people, but told in like the most extreme way you can tell that, because they just kill everyone who's like thinks they're above people and are just like generally bad human beings. So that's pretty cool. We like that. Then I watched Won't You Be My Neighbor, but I largely just had it on my other screen while I did other things. Mr. Rogers is a good human. He's an interesting human to think about. But I was not really paying attention to this because I'd already seen it. I was like, interesting dude. And then I went to see Quiet Place 2 on opening night, because it was like opening day. It wasn't quite night. It was like the early afternoon. And now I've seen the ending like 30 or 40 times, and I'm kind of sick of the ending, but I'm acknowledged this is a good movie. And I think the ending is very good. And I think it does a good with like tying the beginning, like day 1 to like day 400 or whatever it is, wherever they are now, like bringing like the kids' arcs to the beginning, like all the way to the end in like a meaningful way. And I really appreciated that. The first one may do something like that, but I haven't seen part 1 in like a year. I didn't really remember as much about it. I don't know if it's one I'll see again. I don't know if it's my favorite movie of the year yet. But we'll get to like the better things of this year. But it was like not objectively, but it was like, I considered it's like top 5 of like the year so far. Then I watched Almost Famous, and I enjoyed it, but then every 10 seconds I'd be thinking, this child's 15 years old. Is the power of, oh, he's with us, really that good at getting you in everywhere? Because like, this is a 15-year-old kid who did sex, drugs, and alcohol. And like, that's just like, I'd get to like a point where like they do something illegal, or be like, oh, this is a 15-year-old child having sex with grown adults. Like, that's illegal. I don't know if it is. I think it is in the 60s. I don't really, 60s, 70s, whatever it is. I don't really know. I'm gonna assume it's probably illegal. And he never really like tells anyone. Like, the person, like Russell knows, but it never is like brought up that he's like a 15-year-old kid for the entire time, basically. And to me, that's just like, kind of wild. And it definitely took me out of a lot of things. I was like, this is a literal child in these situations, and I'm not here for that. We're in the end game. Then I watched The Neighbor's Window, because I had it was 10:30 at night. I was trying to keep the streak going. It was a good just live your life. But it was also still very weird that they were staring at them. I get your life is boring, but it's still really kind of creepy to just be staring at your neighbor's window that much. I get you think your life sucks, but because it is just your life sucks, but people have it worse. Get over it, kind of thing. Just appreciate what you have, but then it's just kind of a lot. It's this is staring at your neighbor's window is still pretty weird, especially at the frequency she does it, and it's an addiction. And I'm that's probably not healthy. And then I watch what right now is probably my top movie of the year, Cruella, because one, it's just I just like black and white as an aesthetic. I just think it's really cool, and that's which makes this movie just good. Two, fashionably, aesthetically, it's just perfect. Three, everyone's hamming it up and is just going hard when they did not need to go that hard, and I love it for that. Four, it's got Emma Stone, and I love Emma Stone. She's probably one of my favorites. And then five, the song plays before the mid-credit thing. That's a good song. It's stuff there are better movies that have come out, but I walked out of Cruella and I've been thinking about it ever since, and it's just been stuck in my mind as this is a good I had a very good time watching this. And that's May 2021. I watched a total of probably at least 20, 25, 30 films that month. My voice is very tired, but here comes June, and if I make it, ideally I'll have watched 30 movies next month, and I can do this all over again. So if you have your thoughts on these movies, put them in the comments, whatever you gotta do, get your thoughts out. If you want to see watch when I see these things, just follow me on Letterboxd. That'll be in the description. Get the like, subscribe, all the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. And then hopefully I'll see you for next month, but who knows. In the meantime, I will still be watching a lot of movies.